The first UFC pay-per-view of the year went down Saturday night at TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, headlined by high-profile championship clashes in the heavyweight and light heavyweight divisions. After a slow start, the action in the octagon picked up considerably, delivering a number of highlight reel performances and plenty to talk about going forward. Here's a look at the key takeaways from the UFC's initial pay-per-view offering of 2018. More must-see images from 2018's first UFC PPV experience matters. Stipe Miocic retained the UFC heavyweight title with a tactical, professional effort opposite hyped challenger Francis Ngannou in the main event of UFC 220 on Saturday night in Boston. While the challenger's freakish power ensured that he was never completely out of it and kept the champion honest throughout, Miocic showed that hype and marketability aren't as important as experience and a complete arsenal of SS inside the cage. He countered Ngannou's big swings early and turned to his wrestling in key moments, keeping the hulking challenger off balance and exhausting him over the opening 5 minutes. From there, it was largely academic as Miocic continued to wear out Ngannou, wrestling him to the ground, forcing him to carry his weight and chipping away with short shots that slowly add up and break your spirit, which is exactly what happened. There will be people who criticize Miocic for not finishing, but they're crazy. This was a dominant effort from the reigning champion, who is now the most decorated heavyweight champion in UFC history. He did exactly what he said he was going to, exploit the holes in Ngannou's game to secure his third consecutive successful title defense and remain the baddest man on the planet. Daniel Cormier is one of the all-time greats. Daniel Cormier made it look easy, proving that his pre-fight comments about being on a different level than challenger Volkan Ozdemir were valid. After weathering Ozdemir's signature early rush, Cormier found his range and started connecting, hurting the challenger with a big right hand before dragging him to the ground late in the frame. If he had any more time to work in the first, the fight would have been over. Cormier fished his forearm under Ozdemir's neck and had a rear naked choke locked in when the horn sounded. It didn't matter as Cormier almost immediately brought the fight back to the floor, pinning Ozdemir in a mounted crucifix and getting the stoppage shortly thereafter. Cormier is a special talent and one of the best in the history of the sport. It's not up for debate anymore. He went 13-0 at heavyweight and has enjoyed 2 title reigns in the light heavyweight division. The only man to beat him is arguably the greatest fighter of all time, Jon Jones. No one else has come close. You don't have to like Cormier, and plenty of people don't, but there is no way to deny his greatness anymore. DC is one of the all-time greats, period. End of discussion. Featherweight really is front and center. Last week in St. Louis, Darren Elkins and Jeremy Stephens collected impressive victories to get the year in the featherweight division started in style. Saturday night in Boston, Calvin Kattar stamped himself as one of the top emerging talents in the 145-pound ranks, waging a back-and-forth battle with Shane Burgos before dispatching the New Yorker from the ranks of the unbeaten with a chain of heavy shots early in the third. Between Max Holloway delivering a pair of standout performances against Jose Aldo in 2017 and making it clear he was willing to tussle with Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov after doing away with Frankie Edgar when they all shared the dais on Friday in Boston, it is becoming crystal clear that 2018 is going to be the year of the featherweights. Here's the thing, Kattar looked outstanding in his short-notice promotional debut against Andre Fili and upped the ante at home Saturday against Burgos. He's poised and technical and should land a marquee fight after this one, and yet he still might not crack the top 15. That's how loaded this division is right now. If you're not all in on featherweight, I don't know what to tell you. In fact, lighter weight classes lead the way for whatever reason. The misconception about the lighter weight classes failing to deliver the same kind of explosive action and highlight reel stoppages as their heavier counterparts has endured, even though it is categorically false. Saturday night, Rob Font lit up Thomas Almeida in the opening bout of the main card, rocking the aggressive Brazilian early in the second before patiently finding the opening he needed to crash home a big head kick to fell Tom in his for good midway through the stanza. After a dud of a light heavyweight contests, Kattar and Burgos went shot for 2 rounds before Kattar finished things with a Street Fighter-style 10-strike combination. Fight of the year in the UFC each of the last 4 years has come from the welterweight division or below, and many of the most consistently entertaining competitors in the organization do battle at 170 pounds or lower. The big boys might pack the most dynamite in their punches, but the lighter weight classes have been consistently more entertaining for years, and it shouldn't be any different in 2018. Engagement issues ahead. UFC 220 was one of those fight cards where people were keyed up for the biggest fights on the card, but completely dismissive about pretty well everything else. Not only was that problematic for Saturday's event, but it feels like something the promotion is going to struggle with throughout the next couple months and potentially all year. While there were a couple quality matchups on the undercard, it feels like we've reached a point where unless events like this are loaded with marquee names and established contenders doing battle, people struggle to get excited. It's understandable, but it's also problematic because not every fight card can be packed to the gills with great fights. The only way it is possible to put together lineups like the stellar collection of bouts at UFC 218 is to have events like this, a quality card anchored by twin title fights, but without a string of title elimination bouts leading into those championship contests. If the UFC isn't able to find a way to get fans excited about some of these matchups between emerging talents or intriguing newcomers, there is going to be a lot of complaining about fight card composition filling up social media in 2018.